students, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. Today we are going to learn a very new chapter of your Class 7 NCERT textbook, that is Chapter 9, Reproduction in Plants. So what do you all know about reproduction? Let's make this topic at ease by asking you a question. So the question is, from where does the seed comes from? Where does the seed, you can see on the screen, right? The seed comes from, yes, you guess it right. It comes from a fruit. This fruit. And from where does this fruit comes from? Yes, this fruit comes from the plant. You are absolutely right. From this plant. Now, in this chapter, we are going to unfold the secrets as how this plant produces the fruit. And how come this fruit disperses out the seed? And this seed again produces a plant. How come this all processes happen? We are going to study in this chapter, reproduction. And then slowly we will move on to the modes of reproduction in plants. That is, different types of reproduction that the plants do. For example, thus we will study about the sexual reproduction, in plants, and the asexual reproduction in plants. Okay, we will study about these two main reproduction of plants, and then we will broadly understand what is sexual reproduction in plants, how does it process, what are the process of sexual reproduction, and then we will study about types of asexual reproduction, types of flowers, fertilization, which helps in the formation of fruits, seeds, etc. And then we will learn about the pollination, and then the last topic, which is seed dispersal, followed by the NCERT questions. All right. So are we all ready? Let's get started. So do we all remember the parts of plants we have learnt in class 6th? Let us see how much you remember. Okay, so this is a plant. What all you can see on this presentation? What are the parts of plant you can see? I think you can see here a fruit, the seed, the stem, the branch, these roots, and this leaf, and also the beautiful flower. Can you tell me what are the vegetative parts of a plant? Can you tell me? Come on, can you tell me what are the vegetative parts? Yes, we can tell you that the vegetative parts of a plant are the stem, the roots, the branches. All of these are the vegetative parts. But what is the one reproductive part of a plant? That is flower and also leaves. Because leaves have stomata. They have the green pigment, which is known as chlorophyll, and they possess photosynthesis, from which the plant gets its food, right? So reproductive part is flower and leaves. But why we are calling flower as a reproductive part? And what is reproductive part? Let us study the reproduction in detail. All right. Remember, we have studied about the different characteristics living things have. We have studied that living things breathe. We have studied that living things move, they show movement. But we also studied that the living beings reproduce and show reproduction. As you can see in this example, here is a seed. Now seedling, little leaves are coming out, these, and it's a climber. It's an example of climber, which is pumpkin. You can see this baby pumpkin which comes from this parent pumpkin, right? So living things reproduce, which means they can produce the younger one or make offspring. Offspring means baby of their own kind. Okay. What is reproduction? It is the process of how living things produce their offspring. How does the living things produce their babies? And there are two major methods by which living things produce: sexual and asexual methods. Let us see. So all living beings reproduce and have their lifespan, within which they change their body from being birthed to a baby, and then to a toddler, and then to the adolescence, then to the adulthood, and then to the old age. Okay, so all this lifespan is possessed by every living beings. And when these growth and development takes place, to this growth and development we call it as reproduction has been takes place. Okay, as we studied, there are two types of reproduction, the sexual and asexual. Let us see one by one. Sexual reproduction means the baby which is inherit. Inherit means comes from. Half of their trait. Trait means their character. Information from one parent and half from the other, making the offspring. That means, see, parents involve two human beings, right? One is male and other one is female, right? And this is the offspring or baby. This is the puppy, right? So when there is, so this puppy have half of a trait or half of a character of his daddy and half from his mommy, right? So when this involved, when one of the character comes from the male parent and the one character is coming from the female parent, this give rise to the sexual reproduction. Okay, these are the examples of sexual reproduction. You can see there are babies, baby elephant, the plants. These all possess sexual reproduction. Let us learn about it in a detail. So what happen in sexual reproduction, students? Sexual reproduction involves two parents. Okay, two parents are involved. One is male parent and one is female. This is the male parent and this is the female parent, because we need one trait or genetic character to form a baby. All right, so these male and female have their own reproductive organs. All right, they both have different reproductive organs. And what does this reproductive organs do? These reproductive organs give out reproductive cells, or you can say gametes in scientific form. Okay, when these reproductive cells half from male and from a female, they will give out a baby or offspring. Okay, so what it is happening when these reproductive cells of a male and female fuse? The process is known as fusion, or in plants it is known as fertilization. Fuse means mix up to form one baby. Okay, so actually these reproductive cells have a genetic character in them. Okay, this genetic character is none other than but the DNA. The DNA, all right, which are having these genes. This DNA is having the genes which each parent are carrying. Okay, this whole structure is of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, and this housing or holding up the gametes which are containing the traits or the character. Half character from the male and half character from the female is fused. Fusion is done, or you can say fertilization is done, and that DNA is being transferred to the offspring or the baby. Okay, so this is what happened in reproduction. Okay, this whole process happens in reproduction. Okay, that is why it is known as reproduce, to produce again the body, the offspring or a baby which have the genetic character or traits half from the male and half from the female. That was all about the sexual reproduction. Okay, this was all this story, all these cells which are being transformed only happen in sexual reproduction. Okay, where the sex is involved. This sex means gender is involved. Okay, the gender is involved, one male and one female. Okay, so and this fusion happens for what? Because the cells are being transferred, cells are having the DNA within it which is being shared to the baby. Okay, that was all about the sexual reproduction. Now come see what type of sexual reproduction happens in the plants. Let us see. Okay, for knowing the whole process of sexual reproduction in plants, we need to know the two types of flowers. Okay, because in flowers only the reproduction is going to happen. As I told you that flowers are the reproductive organ of a plant. And for sexual reproduction, we all know that it is compulsory that there should be reproductive organ which will give out reproductive cells. Okay, so there are two types of flowers, unisexual flowers and the bisexual flowers. By the flower which are having both male and female reproductive organs on the same flower. Okay, is known as bisexual flower. And unisexual flowers, only one sex is there, yani one gender is there. Either is male or female. It will be unisexual flower. Okay, bisexual means two genders are involved, two sexes are involved. One sex is involved in unisexual flower. Okay, you got it right? Let us see next. Okay, so now we will begin with the flower structure. Okay, let us see what does flower structure involve. All right, so the flower look like this. You can see on the screen like this. What does it involves? It is also known as angiosperms. So understanding the flower structure is important because it's the only reproductive organ of the plant by which the sexual reproduction is going to take place. Okay, let's break down all the typical parts of the flower. Okay, Okay, so this is it. Let's start from the top and then we'll go to the bottom, right? So as we open up the flower, okay, open up the petals. These are the petals, you can see. These are the petals. Petals are of different colors. Okay, which attract various insects to sweep out all the nectar from it, right? Right? So when we keep on releasing out or removing the petals, we get this part, which is the female part of the flower, which is starting from stigma. This one is stigma, and this tube, you can see tube-like structure. Tube-like structure, it is style, and here comes this ovary, within which all the ovules, means eggs or gametes, as I've told you, these are the female reproductive cells are present. Okay, okay, and then here on the left side you can see these structure looking like this. Okay, this is filament and this is anther, and this two forms the male reproductive part of a plant. So this is the flower which are having both the sexes, both the gender within it. So what kind of flower it is? Yes, it is bisexual flower, which is having the female reproductive part and also the male reproductive part. This stigma, style and ovary together known as, this stigma, you can see stigma, style or ovary together, in some books together it is known as carpel. Okay, and here together the male reproductive part is known as pistil. Okay, now these, you know, this is the leaf and this is the stem, and these are the sepal, which looks like, somewhat looks like the petals, but these are smaller than the petals. Okay, petals are these which have different colors, as I already told you. Now one by one, through their functions, we're going to learn the parts of flower. Okay, let us see. So this is the structure of flower. What does the stigma do? Stigma is a sticky surface that captures the pollen grains. So what happens from the male reproductive part, that is anther and filament. So what happens, the anther, this anther gives out these small dotted like structure, which is known as the male reproductive cells. The female reproductive cells I have already told you that are present in the ovary, here ovule, I told you now. These are the female reproductive cells, and anther here gives out the male reproductive cells. So these cells, when come to the stigma, here they stick, because stigma has a sticky surface and captures the pollen grains. Until and unless the male reproductive cells didn't come here, the fertilization, the fusion, the fertilization means, I told you already, the fusion does not take place. And for sexual reproduction, fusion is very much important. Okay, so what happened, the stigma is the sticky surface, and then this is the style. Here is tube like structure, is a style. When pollen grains come stick to it, then it arrives here, style to style, and then come here to the ovary, which is the female reproductive part, and here are the ovules, which are the female reproductive cells, and then when they meet, they forms the zygote or embryo. Yes, the baby in the form of seed or the fruit. Okay, the flower is changed into the fruit. Okay, if you want to note down any kind of notes, you can note down from this picture or take a screenshot, because this structure is important from your exam point of view. You need to label it and also give the functions like this. Okay, very important. Now we are proceeding. Okay, so now we'll talk about the fertilization in flower. Fertilization is nothing but the fusion, which I have already told you, when male and female fuse together. Their cells, male and female cells fuse together. Is called as fertilization, okay, in plants. So we already know that anther will give out what? Male reproductive cells plus the female reproductive cells are present inside the ovary, which are ovule, right? Okay, ovary has the ovule. So we now knew that anther is having the pollens, and pollens have to meet the ovule for the fusion, right? For the fertilization to takes place. Let us see how do they fuse together. Okay, so the fusion of pollen from anther to the ovule, means egg, which are present inside the ovary, has a unique process which is known as pollination. Pollination, okay, because we are going to transfer the pollens to the ovary. Pollens to the ovary. That is why the process is known as pollination. Pollens to ovary. Pollination. So we are transferring the pollen grains from the male part, which is anther, of one flower to the female part, that is stigma, of another flower of the same species. Okay. So why it is important? Pollination is important because it leads to seed formation. The seed, that zygote, I have already told you about it. The baby is involved. So for this, pollination is important. Now, this pollination, how does it takes place? The process of pollination. First, the pollens are formed, okay, inside the anther, the reproductive cells, gametes. I have already told you that cells, gametes are one thing only, okay. So these pollens are attracted by the pollinators, because pollens are not on their own going and sticking to the style. They need some agents, pollinating agents. These can be insects, bees, winds also transfer these pollens to the sticky part of the female part, which is stigma. And these pollinators can be bees, butterflies, or birds. Okay. So there are different methods of pollination, by insects or by wind. You can choose any one. These insects are going to transfer the pollens from the anther to the stigma. Example, roses, daisies, or sunflower. And there are some lightweight pollens which, with the help of wind only, just these lightweight pollen just swipe off from the body, from the anther, and get stick on the style. So this method is known as by wind. So pollination allows the plants to reproduce, okay, by transferring the pollens from the anther to the stigma. And pollination is important for fertilization, okay. Pollination is very much important for the fertilization. If there is no pollination, transfer of pollens, अगर ट्रांसफर ऑफ पोलन्स ही नहीं होगा तो फर्टिलाइजेशन कैसे होगी? मेल रिप्रोडक्टिव सेल्स को फीमेल तक तो जाना पड़ेगा, और उसके लिए ये पॉलिनेटर्स हेल्प करते हैं. तो दो तरह की पॉलिनेशन होती है. एक होती है सेल्फ पॉलिनेशन, जिसमें एक ही प्लांट में वन प्लांट इज हैविंग टू फ्लावर्स, ओके, और इन्हीं एक ही प्लांट में पॉलिनेशन हो रहा है. ये वाला पॉलिनेटिंग एजेंट उठाकर पोलन्स उठाकर ट्रांसफर कर रहा है दूसरे फ्लावर पर but एक ही plant की, one plant which are having two flowers. Okay, so it is self pollination. Or on the other side there is cross pollination, where two flowers are involved of different plant, of two different plant. Okay, where only one flower, where only one plant but two flowers are involved, it is known as self pollination. But two flowers of two different plants are involved, that is known as cross pollination. Okay, these are the major differences between self pollination and cross pollination. Means, transfer of pollens from anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower on the same plant. Okay, same plant, one plant but two different flowers. Okay, on a same plant, and here two different plants and two different flowers. Okay, that is cross pollination. Pollen comes from the same plant, pollens come from a different plant. Can be the same flower or different flowers. No external agents are involved, and it majorly involve pollinators such as insects, bees or butterflies, and winds or animals. Okay, the question do come, very important question, to give differences between self-pollination and cross-pollination. So immediately after the pollination, when the pollens are being transferred from anthers to the stigma, the female part of the flower, then what happens? Fertilization starts. As I've already told you, that fertilization is a method in which the fusion of male reproductive cells, in case of plant, that are pollens, right? Pollens from anther get fused up with the ovules, that is female reproductive cells from the ovary, start fertilization. Okay, the pollen on the stigma germinates and sends a pollen tube down into the flower's ovary. This which pollen tube is inside it on the style part of the flower. Okay, now when the pollens are being attached to it through pollinating agents, the pollens go straight inside to the pollen tubes. Okay, and there are already ovules are present. Here you can see seed formation, the ovules, these are the ovules. This is the ovary in which these ovules are present. These ovules develops into the seeds. Once when the pollens get fused up with the ovule present inside the ovary, which is egg, it turns into the seed. Okay, seed is formed. Okay, and this ovary, whole ovary, this ovary is turned into the fruit. Okay, enclosing the seeds inside. Okay, the ovary has been changed or transferred into the fruit, and fruit is have the seed inside it. And now the seed dispersal takes place. That means seed get out from the fruit. When human beings eat it or when animals eat it, the seed get dispersed or out of from the fruit, and now these seeds can be carried away to different locations and grow into new plant. We are going to study this seed dispersal in detail. Okay, where the seeds is being dislocated and then get germinated with the help of different agents, and then again a new plant is formed. Okay, this is all about the fertilization process. Now pollination and fertilization together we will see. We already know that pollination is the transfer of pollens from the anther to the stigma. So it is done by the pollinating agents. You can see the pollens are being transferred onto the stigma, and then what happens? Inside the ovary there are multiple ovules, the female egg cells, and then fertilization takes place. The ovary also undergoes changes and turns into the fruit. This seed will undergo a dispersal process where it will become a new plant. And now here you can see this whole flower is changed into the fruit, where this whole part, ovary, has been changed into the fruit, and these ovules change into the seeds, and this is your stigma and style. So that was all about with the part 1 section of chapter number 9, reproduction in plants. In part 2 we are going to see the seed dispersal part and the asexual reproduction in the plants. Okay, then if you have any doubts, just comment down below. Till then, keep on learning and keep on revising. Bye bye.